Even though they're all the same, off the same template stuff, every guitar has something that's slightly different about them. Because it's a handmade instrument, there's always going to be something that's just a little bit different, which makes it unique.
You're reacting to an individual piece of wood each time,
yeah,
aren't
exactly,
you? So
yeah.
it's going to be different as you work with the materials you've got.
Kevin, Providence Guitars.
I'm Reuben from Providence Guitars.
We like classic looking things, but with a bit of a modern sort of like twist on them. My wife is from Providence in the States. She enabled me to do the course for 3 years. Without her, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So I thought, well, let's name the company after where she's from. We have these two that are on the wall here. So we've got a Zephyr and this is called a Fairlane. And the idea there was basically, we love jazz masters, and like I specifically love non-reverse Firebirds, but I mean there's a lot of issues with jazz masters, and even though they're very cool guitars, you know, and then non-reverse Firebirds, you know, the shape is not the most comfortable if you're sitting down. You know, there's certain things about it that it's a great guitar, but it could be better. We took those two guitars, meld them into one, and give them both attributes of each other. So with the Zephyr, you've got like, it's a bolt-on neck and it's more in the Fender world. It's a 25 and arching scale, but it still has sort of like a lightness and a thinness of like an SG to it. And then the Fairlane, which is more in the Gibson world because it's got the set neck and the angle neck, but it still retains the qualities of Jazzmaster. So they're kind of like borrowing from each other's worlds, do you know what I mean? And then we tried to simplify them and refine them so there's not all that extra circuitry on board, you know, the controls are simplified, less is more for me, generally.
I think the more direct you can get a good sound, it's like anything, it's like a good chef uses less ingredients, but every single one of them is great.
Put good hardware on there, good pickups, make sure the wiring is well done. Every little thing, you know, as I say, we use the Tagua nut, the vegetable bone nut, and we've started using a roasted pine, and no one in England's doing that at the moment. Like, it's been around for a long time. Like, the first Fender made the first telly bodies out of pine, but I think over the years people have seen it as like it's a bit of a cheap wood. It's not very durable, blah blah blah, but it's amazingly resonant. And once you've roasted it, it becomes tougher and stronger, and also more resonant. But yeah, it's hard to get over here, so we have to import that from the States, which is a bit annoying. But I think eventually when it becomes a bit more sort of on people's radar, people over here will start doing it. But I mean, we try and get as much stuff as we can from, you know, local sort of lumberyards and suppliers. I mean, the tulip wood bodies we use, we get from local. So
yeah, we use Rotosounds on all our instruments and pretty much all our setups as well now, don't we?
Yeah.
They're great for our instruments. They're versatile, and we like the fact that you can get really specific sets made up, which covers all bases when we've got all kinds of random guitars coming in here.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's really handy to have that to be able to just fall back on nice and easy.
They're reliable, you know, they don't break. Like a lot of strings seem to sort of just not last that long these days. Yeah, they're just good British made strings, I think. I started working after college at a place called Monty's in West London. I was doing all their repairs and their setups. COVID hit, and unfortunately the guy who owned the unit that they were based in decided that they could only have a certain amount of people in the unit at one time. They eventually moved out of London to start somewhere else because of that as well. But he was amazing. He was like a great tutor to learn from. I mean, he makes amazing pickups. Unless someone specifically says they want something else, we'll always put Monty's in ours, purely because they're one of the best around.
I've spent years on tour with really picky bands who all are totally different and have such different ideas of what you need from a guitar or from, you know, a sound that you're trying to get. So around the same time, Kev couldn't work at Monty's anymore. I was a touring guitar tech, which completely disappeared the second COVID hit. A lot of the bands I've toured with in the past were a brilliant starting point for us having a lot of work coming in here. One fun thing we've got in at the moment is the guitar Stinky, which is a 72 Strat belonging to Bowen from Idols. He got it from his dad. He's used it his whole time in Idols. It looks like it.
Yeah, it's been used.
It's definitely been used. It was in absolute bits. It was like it's been smashed in half, glued back together, not quite straight, so the bridge didn't fit in. The skunk strip was out the back of the neck. The truss rod had pushed that out somehow. Yeah, there's a big old gouge out of it where he's played it to death, and it was to the point where there's no finish left on it. So as soon as he sweats on it, it becomes this spongy kind of mess you can just pull off.
Everything's completely rusted together, wasn't it?
Yeah, I spent 2 weeks trying to extract the saddles and the saddle screws from the bridge. Managed to save half of them, but we're sourcing some old vintage ones to match with those.
So it's having a makeover. It's going to have a new lease of life. So yeah, it's a fun project, that one. What I was doing and what Reuben doing was out of our kitchens and our houses basically, and it got to a point where I was running out of space because there wasn't much room for the amount of guitars that people were bringing to us, and you were getting a lot of guitars coming through, and it got to a point I was like, well, let's find a space that we can do this in properly, and let's start a brand, let's start a business. So yeah, that's the dream basically, is to
just to work out how many we can make in here, and keep it all real, organic, handmade.
Yeah, I
just get as busy as possible with that, really.
I don't want it to be a thing where I'm not making the guitar. I've got to have my hands on it to feel like I've made it. I think a lot of people, they get into this thing and then they're like, well, we'll just buy a load of machinery to go and do that stuff, and then I'll basically just do some finishing work on it. It's like, that to me is not a hand-built guitar. I'd always want to be involved in the actual, especially with the shaping of the necks and all that stuff. So get big, but not big enough where I can't make the guitars, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we always want to be hands-on with it and take the whole journey with the guitar as we build it, basically.